Traditionally, going back to biblical times, books were sewn by hand by monks in monasteries. The earliest books were sewn. And the structure of a signature is folded pages, and you sew through the center of the fold, and you connect one folded section to the next folded section, and the whole structure works and is flexible and reads easily and is the ideal structure for reading. When you're doing adhesive binding, you have only individual pages. The back of the book is cut off, all of the pages are single, and you're holding your book together only by the adhesive. So the flexibility of a binding is one of the prized characteristics of a quality binding, and a Sewn book will always open better than an adhesive bound book. With some of the newer equipment, as we have here at Superior, you can take a digitally printed sheet, fold it into 4-page signatures, nest them, sew through the fold, and end up with a beautifully flexible Sewn binding from a digital sheet. This book is an example of that, where you have your pages sewn through the fold, you have the flexibility of the book, you lose none of the margin, and it makes a very pleasurable reading experience. Well, I'll tell you, the most important thing, again, if you care about flexibility, is if you can get the grain direction going north to south with the book. When you purchase your paper, when you do your impositions, if it's possible to get that north-south page alignment, then you'll get a more flexible binding and a better opening book. I tell you, lip is something that we like in the bindery, and that's because when we're sewing, these machines run at pretty high speed, and if you're trying to use suckers to get to the center section, because you need to open to the center of the signature, if there's a lip, there's a device within the sewing machine which will grab that high section of the signature, open and drop the signature on the saddle very quickly and flawlessly. I'd add too that one of the cautions for printers is that if you're sending in sewn work, it's very common to perforate the spine of work which is not sewn. You never want to perforate the spine of a book that will be sewn, because it'll prevent you from having that option. We've sewn and bound books that are really quite thin and quite thick. I think the minimum that we can do is somewhere just over 2 millimeters in thickness, which is really just a few pages, I think 16 pages, so it's 2 8-page signatures. And the maximum you can do is about 60 to 80 millimeters. 60 millimeters is a pretty big book, 80 millimeters is a huge book, and those are the limits of what the equipment can handle. Well, I think that sewing has always been dominant in the hardcover niche, and frankly in the high-quality softcover niche as well. But with the higher speed sewing machines, it makes the cost of Smythe sewing really very small relative to the project cost. So clients that want to have a Smythe sewn option, certainly have it available to them, and the cost is such a small factor that most people choose to go that way, unless they absolutely have a budget limit that they can't, break around. The only thing that would make you not able to sew a book is if it were not possible to print it as signatures. If you can't create folded sections to sew through, then of course you can't Smythe sew. But if you can, then we're able to give you a really high-end Smythe sewn book that works perfectly, and typically clients just love the difference in the quality.